fucking miracle that everyone in the Resident Evil franchise doesn't have vein damage. Salutations, Cinemaskis. I'm Darkest101, and anyone else fancy a Jill sandwich? So I have reviewed 4 out of the 6 Resident Evil movies at this point, and frankly, kinda sick of them. So as a consolation prize, I've decided that for Halloween, we're going right back to the beginning, and we're seeing how the Resident Evil series started out. And yes, I am going back to the original PlayStation 1 version of the game, rather than the GameCube/PlayStation 4 remaster. I paid £6 for this disc, alright? I want my money's worth. So first of all, can I just say that the intro has to be preserved as a time capsule dedicated to how fucking terrible the human race's capacity to acting can be? I mean, my fucking god, this can't have been their aim material, whoever the hell they were, right? Like, they must have been paid $5 an hour at most. Or, this is my personal theory. This is basically the story behind the first trailer for the Disaster Artist, but, you know, for a video game. It's basically, all the actors basically fucked up so many times. This was the first successful take where they did it right, and the director was just like, you know what, fuck it, that's it, we're gonna keep this. Oh my god, we finally got it. And that's how the worst takes in humanity made it into this game. Alright, serious time for a second. I had to check this because I've been doing these reviews for nearly 5 years now, but I was right when I said I have not reviewed a single PlayStation 1 game in the entire time I've been doing these reviews. Like, I know, crazy, right? So with that in mind, can I just say that the PlayStation fucking holds up? Like, seriously, I don't know what it is, but there is something about the PlayStation that no matter how fucking amazing graphics in our current console generation get, the PlayStation 1 still has a genuine charm that isn't ugly or unpleasant to look at when it comes to its gameplay. Like, there's something about the polygonal design and aesthetic that still looks pretty fucking good. And that can definitely be said for Resident Evil. It's a little sad that the use of pre-rendered backgrounds like these used in Resident Evil have gone out of style with the advent of gaming technology and development because they look amazing. And they help to distinguish the character models against the backgrounds. I mean, sometimes they look like painted backdrops, yes, like the ones used in the bathroom, rather than rendered out locations, but for the most part they look pretty dang sweet. And it's literally impossible to talk about Resident Evil without talking about the fixed camera perspective. I did a cold open about it, probably going to mention it. I've not really played a lot of fixed camera perspective games in the past, and those that I have played, it's annoying as hell. I think it's because of how the controller mapping orientates itself around the camera rather than the character model. Resident Evil, however, doesn't have this problem. Sure, everyone mocks the tank controls and having to use the D-pad to control the characters is limited, but it is a limit I can work with and respect. It's not a game breaker by any stretch of the imagination, and I appreciate that. As well as the fact that up on the D-pad will always be forward in whatever direction your character is facing at the time. So even if you whip around 4 corners, you'll never have a jarring moment of, okay, so if I change direction now, how of course will my character actually be? One thing I also appreciated about the game was the fact it didn't hold my hand and just let me explore by myself. Sure, you can say the lack of a formal tutorial or any tutorial really is bad game design and makes the game less accessible to new players, but I got a handle on the basic controls after digging around with the controller for a few minutes. I figured out how to access my inventory, how to equip different weapons, check my map, how to enter combat stands, and how to shoot just by playing around with the controller. However, after my first death and going back through the game, I discovered a few things about the game I hadn't realised before. How to push and interact with objects, how to aim up and down my weapons to name a few. I mean, yeah, aiming can be a little finicky at times, especially as Jill, but it's not game-breaking. The game does give you a few hints of what you're supposed to do as well in the main menu if you leave it for long enough. Most games would just throw up a demo of what you could be playing here, but Resident Evil shows you little hints and tips you might not have noticed before. For instance, I had no idea I could push this chest of drawers here in the art gallery until I saw Chris do it in a demo. As far as this review is concerned, it's mostly going to be focused around the Jill Valentine walkthrough of the game because that's all I experienced whilst gathering footage for the game. Because there are noticeable differences between the 2 player characters, Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield. From what I understand, Jill is slower, takes more damage and can't aim as accurately as Chris can. which you'd think would make her the obvious worst character, but Chris doesn't have access to the lockpick, which means if he has to open a door, he has to pick up individual little keys, has less inventory space to begin with, and doesn't even start off with a gun. It's a nice little system of checks and balances that means no one character is the best to play as both have their own strengths and weaknesses. All of the changes between the two characters create two distinctive, different gameplay experiences without changing difficulty and without changing the story whatsoever. I mean, bravo to Capcom, that's well done. However, if there's one thing that does tip the scales in favour of the Jill Valentine playthrough, it's Barry freaking Burton.
I'm going with you. Chris is our old partner, you know. Hope this is not Chris's blood. Jill, here's a lockpick. It might be handy if you, the master of unlocking, take it with you. What is it? That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Just everything that is cheesy and 90s and cliche and so bad about Resident Evil's dialogue is summed up in one human package that is Barry Burton. I fucking love it. And I just love the puzzle aspect of this game. I freaking love it. I adore it, seriously. It reminds me of the good old days of Tomb Raider, where you had to find this, that and the other in order to open doors to where you have to go next. Oh, I miss good old puzzle solving mechanics like this, you know? This game also has a brutal save system. You see, you can only save inside safe rooms using typewriters you find inside the safe rooms. Sounds easy enough, right? However, you can only save by way of using various ink ribbons you find around the game. Each ink ribbon takes up a single inventory slot and they are hidden like crazy. So you have a limited number of saves in the entire game and they aren't even given to you, you have to find them. I played the game 3 times from the beginning myself before I found my first ink ribbon, so they are not easy to find. I have to admit, it is a harsh punishment for failure, but what a punishment it is, right? Being forced to go through the entire game from the beginning if you die without finding an ink ribbon? That is some failure right there. The story for Resident Evil follows on from a simple setup. You are a member of Raccoon City's STARS Alpha team, sent to discover and investigate a series of murders, as well as the disappearance of Bravo team. As you investigate, the team is attacked by strange mutated creatures and you are forced to take shelter in the Arclay mansion, where you are split up and then beset upon by strange, horrific creatures. And that's the game. You have to find out what these creatures are, where they come from, reunite Alpha Team, and stop the horror. I've not gone too in-depth into the story of Resident Evil because the meat of the story is something you best save. I've not gone too in-depth into the story of Resident Evil because I feel like that is something that is best saved for yourself. But I can say the story isn't really that important to what is essentially the catalyst of a fantastic gaming experience, even 20 years on. Resident Evil might look a little rough around the edges on its first glance nowadays, but beneath the 20-year-old graphics, there's still a great survival horror experience in there. Sure, it might not be as scary anymore, but it still holds up as challenging and entertaining. Though some ways it's entertaining in a different way and not as intended by the original creators. It still has a good soundtrack, a style that still holds up, and considering the choice of different characters and 4 possible endings you can get in the game, there's a surprising amount of replay value here as well. For a game that is now over 20 years old, Resident Evil gives you a surprising amount of bang for the buck. I mean, I probably should have reviewed the Director's Edition of the game, but this was a copy of the game I had on hand, so who knows, maybe we'll return to it in the Director's Cut later on, but as it stands right now, the original PlayStation 1 version of Resident Evil gets a dark rating of 82.
I'm going with you. Chris is our old partner, you know.
At least now I know for certain that the Resident Evil movies have been dicking around with the Resident Evil license all this time. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this review, please click the like button below. If you have a suggestion for a future review, please leave it in the comment section below. And as always, I've been Darkest101. You have been watching Darkest101 Reviews. Thanks for watching. Happy fucking nightmares.